You've arrived at Shadow Sleep Stories, a safe corner of the night where we slow down, breathe deep, and wander into dreams together. If you're ready to relax, rest, or simply escape for a while, you're home. Before we begin, give this video a like, subscribe for more journeys, and share in the comments where and when you're listening. Now, sink into comfort, let your mind loosen its grip, and we'll step into tonight's story. The rain hammered against the windows of 47 Maple Street, like desperate fingers trying to claw their way inside. David Chen sat hunched over his laptop in the dim glow of the living room, the blue light casting eerie shadows across his face. Empty coffee cups and crumpled papers littered the coffee table, evidence of another sleepless night wrestling with his novel's final chapter. The old Victorian house creaked and settled around him, each grown familiar after 6 months of living here alone. The realtor had mentioned the house's character, but failed to mention how that character seemed to whisper in the walls at 3 a.m. Ring, ring. David's phone buzzed against the wooden table, the vibration cutting through the storm's white noise. The screen illuminated. David Chen, calling. He frowned. His own number? Must be some kind of glitch or scam. He let it ring once more before answering with an annoyed sigh. Hello? Silence. Then a woman's voice, trembling with terror. Don't open the door. Please, God, don't open the door. He's already inside. David's blood went cold. Who is this? How did you... The basement door. It's not locked anymore. You need to... The line went dead. David stared at his phone, his heart pounding against his ribs. The caller ID still showed his own number. He checked his recent calls, nothing outgoing. His hands shook as he set the phone down. A floorboard creaked upstairs. David grabbed a baseball bat from the hallway closet, his bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The house felt different now, charged with an electric tension that made his skin crawl. He checked the front door, locked. The windows, locked. The basement door at the end of the hallway stood slightly ajar, though he could have sworn he'd closed it earlier. Ring, Rin, his phone again. Same caller ID. Listen, whoever this is, David. The woman's voice was clearer now, urgent but trying to stay calm. It's 3:14. In 30 seconds you're going to hear footsteps in the attic. Don't investigate. Go to the kitchen instead. There's something you need to see. How do you know my... 30 seconds. Kitchen. Trust me. Click. David counted. 28, 29, 30. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy footsteps echoed from directly above. Slow, deliberate, like someone pacing back and forth. David's grip tightened on the bat. Every instinct screamed at him to check the attic, but the woman's voice had been so certain, so specific about the timing. He backed toward the kitchen, eyes fixed on the ceiling as the footsteps continued their methodical pattern. In the kitchen, fluorescent light flickered on, revealing something that made his stomach drop. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet, was a note in his own handwriting. She's telling the truth. The house remembers everything that hasn't happened yet. David, 3:47 a.m. He'd never written those words. The footsteps stopped. Ring, ring. The note, he whispered into the phone. I didn't write that note. You will. The woman's voice was sad now, resigned. In about 30 minutes, you'll understand everything, but right now you need to listen very carefully. Go to the basement. There's a door behind the water heater. You've never noticed it before because it wasn't there until tonight. Asterisk. That's impossible. David, I need you to see what's down there. But whatever you do, don't touch the mirror. Promise me you won't touch the mirror. Asterisk. What mirror? Who are you? I'm the version of you that touched the mirror. The basement steps groaned under David's weight as he descended into the musty darkness. His phone's flashlight cut through the gloom, illuminating cobwebs in the hulking shape of the old water heater. Behind it, impossible as it seemed, was indeed a door, painted the same faded green as the kitchen walls upstairs, as if it had always belonged. The door stood slightly open, revealing a narrow room beyond. David pushed it wider with the baseball bat, afraid to touch it with his bare hands. Inside was a perfect replica of his living room. Same furniture, same coffee-stained table, same laptop. But everything was wrong. The books on the shelves were titles he'd never written. The photos on the mantel showed him with people he'd never met. And on the far wall hung an antique mirror, its silver surface rippling like water despite the still air. On the coffee table in this twisted reflection of his life lay an open journal. David recognized his handwriting, but not the words. Day 1, 1847. Still making the calls. She never listens. She never learns. The house feeds on the loop, growing stronger with each iteration. I should have never touched the mirror. I should have listened to myself. Asterisk. The pages were filled with similar entries, documenting failed attempt after failed attempt to warn his past self. The dates went back years, though David had only lived in the house for months. His phone buzzed with a text from his own number. Behind you. Asterisk. David spun around. In the mirror's rippling surface, he saw not his reflection, but a woman with his face. Hollow-eyed, desperate, mouth moving frantically as if shouting, though no sound reached him. She pressed her palms against the glass from the other side, and David realized with growing horror that she was wearing the same clothes he wore now. The woman in the mirror pointed urgently behind David. He turned. Standing in the doorway was a figure in a dark coat, face hidden in shadow. It had no feet, just wisps of darkness that trailed into nothingness. David stumbled backward, the baseball bat clattering to the floor. The figure glided into the room, and where its presence touched, reality seemed to fray at the edges. The walls flickered between the basement room and somewhere else, a place of endless corridors and doors that led to different versions of the same moment. You're not supposed to be here yet, the figure spoke in a voice like grinding stone. She's changing the sequence. The woman in the mirror pressed both hands against the glass, her mouth forming words David could now somehow hear. Run! Get out of the house! Break the loop! But as David turned to flee, the door slammed shut. The figure extended one shadow-wrapped hand toward the mirror. She's been very troublesome, speaking to you across the barriers, trying to prevent what must happen. But the house always wins. It collects moments, David. Moments of choice, of fear, of possibility. And you're about to give it the most powerful moment of all. The mirror's surface began to crack, spiderweb fractures spreading outward from where the woman pressed her hands. Through the cracks, David could see not just one reflection, but hundreds, infinite versions of himself, all trapped in the glass, all reaching out desperately. Touch the mirror, David. Save her. Save all of them. No! David backed against the wall. She warned me. She said not to touch it because she knows what happens when you do. You become her. You become the one making the calls, trying endlessly to warn a past that can never hear you clearly enough. But there's another choice. The figure gestured, and the basement began to shift. The walls fell away, revealing the house as it truly was. A nexus point where time folded in on itself, where every decision created new branches, new possibilities, new prisons. You can let her die. Let all of them die. Walk away, leave the house, and never look back. Break the chain by abandoning it entirely. Some problems solve themselves through neglect. The woman in the mirror was fading, her image becoming translucent as the cracks spread wider. Choose quickly, David. Sacrifice yourself to save her, or sacrifice her to save yourself. The house feeds on both kinds of choice. David stared at the fracturing mirror, at the desperate face that was and wasn't his own. The woman's lips moved frantically. Let me go, please. Just let me go. But behind her, David could see the others. Dozens, maybe hundreds of versions of himself, all trapped in their own loops, all paying for someone else's choice to save or abandon them. The dark figure waited with infinite patience. Time fractures in 3, 2. David lunged forward, not toward the mirror, but toward the baseball bat on the floor. He swung it with all his strength. not at the glass, but at the figure itself. The bat passed harmlessly through the shadow, but the action itself seemed to startle something fundamental in the room's reality. The walls shimmered, the infinite corridor flickered, and for just a moment, David heard dozens of voices calling out, all his own voice from all the versions of himself trapped in their loops. "Choose neither," he shouted. "I choose to break the choice." The mirror exploded outward in a shower of silver fragments, but instead of cutting him, the pieces hung suspended in the air like frozen tears. The woman stepped through the space where the glass had been, solid and real and wearing David's face. She looked at him with infinite sadness. "You don't understand yet. This is how it always begins, with someone trying to break the pattern." David felt a phone buzzing in his pocket, but he'd left his phone upstairs. He pulled out a device he'd never seen before, its screen showing a call from David Chen. The woman who was him smiled sadly. "Answer it. Someone needs to make calls. Someone needs to try to warn them, even though they never listen." As David raised the phone to his ear, the basement began to dissolve around him. The woman walked backward into the space where the mirror had been, becoming translucent, becoming memory, becoming the voice that would guide the next version of this moment. "Hello?" David said into the phone. His own voice, terrified and desperate, came through the speaker. "There's someone in my house. The caller ID says it's me, but it's a woman's voice, and she keeps warning me about things that haven't happened yet." David looked around the basement. Now just a normal basement with a water heater and no impossible door. In his hand, the phone felt warm and real and terrible. "Listen to me very carefully," he said, his voice already changing, becoming something else. "Don't open the door. He's already inside." Above him, he heard footsteps in his living room, heavy, deliberate, exactly on schedule. The loop continued, and David began to understand that some stories don't end. They just find new people to tell them. The end. Author's note. The Woman Who Called From My Future explores themes of predestination, choice paralysis, and the horror of being trapped in patterns we can observe but never escape. The ambiguous ending suggests that David's attempt to break the choice may have simply graduated him to a different level of the same eternal prison, or perhaps freed the previous version while condemning himself. The true horror lies not in any supernatural entity, but in the possibility that our attempts to escape predetermined patterns might themselves be part of the pattern.